For a solo hiker, there's nothing more terrifying than realizing you're not alone. These three storytellers went into the wilderness for solitude, but something else found them first.
These accounts come from deep within online forums and anonymous submissions. They describe an ancient fear, being followed.
Our first story comes from a user named Trail Sound. He was on a day hike in the Allegheny National Forest. It was October. The air was crisp and the ground was a carpet of dead, rust-colored leaves. He'd been walking for 2 hours, miles from any road. He stopped to drink some water, enjoying the profound silence. That's when he heard it. A single sharp click. It sounded like two stones being struck together. Hard. He scanned the trees, thinking it was a woodpecker, or maybe a deer snapping a branch. But the sound wasn't right. It was too deliberate.
Auditory pareidolia, the brain's tendency to find patterns in random noise. In a silent forest, any sound can seem significant.
He kept hiking, trying to dismiss it. But 5 minutes later, it happened again. Click. This time, it was closer, and it came from his left, off the trail. He stopped again, cupping a hand to his ear. Silence. He shouted, "Hello? Anyone there?" His voice was swallowed by the trees. The only reply was another click, now from his right. It was toying with him, flanking him. A cold dread, heavy and metallic, settled in his stomach. He wasn't hunting for solitude anymore. He was being hunted.
This is a classic intimidation tactic used by predators, creating confusion, testing for a reaction. The question is, what kind of predator?
He abandoned the rest of his hike. He turned and walked back, fast. He didn't run. He didn't want to trigger a chase. Every few minutes the sound would come. Click, click. Always keeping pace. Always just out of sight. The 2-hour walk back to his car felt like an eternity. The sun began to set, casting the forest in a deep, menacing orange. The clicks grew more frequent, more impatient. He finally saw his car in the empty gravel lot. Relief washed over him, so powerful his knees felt weak. He fumbled for his keys, unlocked the door, and threw himself inside, slamming it shut.
He made it out. For most, the story would end here. A creepy experience, but a closed chapter. But for Trail Sound, it was only the beginning.
He drove home, the radio blasting, trying to erase the memory of the woods. He lived in a quiet suburban cul-de-sac, 100 miles from the forest. He felt safe. He was wrong. That night, as he was lying in bed, he heard it. Faint, but unmistakable, from the backyard. Click. His blood ran cold. It was impossible. A trick of the mind. He told himself it was the house settling, a pipe knocking. He put in headphones and tried to sleep.
The account claims an audio file was included. The user said he began recording the sounds outside his window each night, and that an analysis of the waveform showed it wasn't a random occurrence.
The next night, it was closer. Click. Just outside his bedroom window. The third night, it was followed by a soft, scraping sound, like a stone being dragged against the glass. He reported being too afraid to look at what was making the sound. His final post, a week later, simply said, "It's inside now. I hear it in the walls." Click, click, click. After that message, the account went silent.
Whatever followed him from the woods it wasn't content to stay outside. Our next story involves something that leaves more than just sounds. It leaves a message.
This account comes from a park ranger in the Pacific Northwest. We'll call her Dana. She was hiking an unmarked trail in a remote part of her patrol area, checking for signs of poaching. She came across a cairn, a stack of stones used as a trail marker. But this was wrong. The stones were balanced impossibly, each one perfectly centered on the one below, rising 7 feet high. It gave her a strange feeling, a sense of violation. This didn't seem like a simple hiker's marker. To her, it felt more like a territorial display, perhaps even some kind of strange altar. She took a photo for her report and dismantled it, as per park policy.
Man-made structures in deep wilderness often feel uncanny. They're a reminder that we aren't the only ones who can build, who can think, who can warn.
A mile later, she found another one, identical to the first. She felt a prickle of sweat on her neck despite the cold air. She knocked it down, more forcefully this time. The feeling of being watched was intense. Then she started seeing symbols, carved into the trees. Not initials or hearts, but complex geometric shapes. A spiral inside a triangle, a series of intersecting lines. They looked ancient. One of the symbols seemed familiar to her. She thought it resembled a warning sign from local folklore, one that said to mean, "Do not enter," or more pointedly, "This place is taken."
She was an expert in the area, but these markings were new. Someone or something was claiming this territory, and it didn't appreciate her presence.
She decided to turn back. The feeling of being watched had escalated to a feeling of being followed. She could hear movement in the undergrowth, paralleling her path. Heavy, deliberate footsteps. She made it back to her truck, just as dusk was settling. As she unlocked the door, she saw it. Scratched into the driver's side door, fresh and deep in the paint, was the same spiral in a triangle symbol. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Whatever had been following her wasn't just in the woods. It had come all the way to the parking lot. It had watched her arrive.
The carving on the tree and the scratch on the truck are nearly identical in proportion. It's hard to believe this is a coincidence. It feels like a deliberate message.
She lived in a remote cabin provided by the Park Service, miles down a dirt road. She drove home in a state of high alert, constantly checking her rearview mirror, but the road behind her remained empty and dark. She locked her doors and windows and drew every curtain. She sat in the dark, preparing herself for any possibility and listening intently. For hours, the only sound was the wind. Then, around 3 a.m., she heard it. A sound that made her soul turn to ice. Scratch, scrape, scrape on her front door.
In her report, she describes the sound as not an animal. It was methodical. The sound of a tool. The sound of someone carving.
The scratching continued for nearly an hour. She sat, frozen by fear, until the sun came up. After the sound finally stopped, she waited a long time before slowly and cautiously opening the door. Her entire front door was covered in the symbols, dozens of them overlapping, carved deep into the wood. And in the center, one new symbol, one she had never seen before, a stick figure of a person inside a cage.
A sound that follows you. a symbol that marks you. Our final story is about something worse, something that comes back with you.
This story was shared by a young man named Leo. He was hiking a trail near his college town in Utah, a place infamous for its strange magnetic fields and alleged paranormal activity. He wasn't a believer. He was just there to clear his head. But as he went deeper into a narrow canyon, the atmosphere changed. The air grew cold, and the background hum of insects and birds just stopped. He described a feeling of intense pressure, like being underwater, and a sense of profound, irrational dread. It felt like something was standing right behind him, its presence so malevolent it was almost a physical force.
Infrasound. Low-frequency sound waves below the range of human hearing have been known to cause feelings of anxiety, dread, and even visual hallucinations.
But this felt like more than a frequency. He turned around, expecting to see a mountain lion, another hiker, anything. There was nothing. Just the empty, silent canyon. But the feeling of being watched was suffocating. He didn't walk away. He ran. He sprinted out of the canyon, not daring to look back, the feeling of pursuit like hot breath on his neck. He didn't stop until he was back at his car, gasping for air.
He thought he had escaped it, that the feeling was tied to that specific location. But what if it wasn't the place that was haunted? What if it was him?
He was driving away, glancing in his rearview mirror to check for traffic. For a split second, he saw it. A passenger in his back seat. A tall, thin silhouette of a man, darker than the shadows around it, with no discernible features. He slammed on the brakes, whipping his head around. The back seat was empty. He told himself it was a trick of the light, a hallucination brought on by his panic. He was wrong. That night, at his apartment, he walked past the darkened screen of his television, and he saw it again. His own reflection, and standing right behind him, the tall, thin, featureless shape.
This phenomenon is often called a shadow person or the Hat Man. But Leo's description is different. It wasn't just a shadow. It was an absence of light, a hole in reality.
It was always in his peripheral vision, in any reflective surface. The bathroom mirror, a window at night, a puddle on the sidewalk. It never moved. It never did anything. It just stood there and watched. The constant presence began to take its toll. He wasn't sleeping well. He tried to eliminate reflective surfaces, covering mirrors, and unplugging his TV. But he couldn't escape it, catching glimpses in the reflection of a spoon, or even his own eyes. In his account, he came to believe it was like a parasite that had attached itself to him in the canyon, something that seemed to feed on his fear. He felt he wasn't just being followed, but that his very presence was being overshadowed.
3 stories, 3 hikers. Each account raises a terrifying possibility that sometimes, when you stare into the wilderness, something stares back. And sometimes it might follow you home.
The question is, are you sure you came back alone?